Boom. We're live. Modern Relics podcast. I'm Angel. He's Lucky. We're back again. Feels good.
It does. It does.
This is one of those days where like all the tech stuff is breaking. It's like, I'll update everything. I'm like, not updating stuff before the show. It takes me a week to unpack all the changes.
It couldn't have done it last week, when we weren't, like, I wasn't here for gaming last week and I wasn't here for potting last week.
Yeah.
And but it waited until today to do all of that. So,
every single time. I don't know if it's a Tuesday release schedule thing, because sometimes I'll turn this machine on and go through everything and like make sure if I have downtime, I can update stuff. Nothing yesterday.
Right.
Of course, there's everything today.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have a chance to talk much last week.
It's true.
Up until yesterday, during our gaming session.
Yeah.
But last week I was gone.
Yep.
And so we kind of skipped. I even skipped gaming, which is rare. I don't ever try to skip either. But in this particular case, it was unavoidable due to marital obligations, I guess you could say. Not that I did not, enjoy those things, but one would say a wife would be most displeased if you went, babe, I can't go out on our anniversary. Mm-hmm. I have gaming and potting to do.
Yeah.
Can I take a rain check?
Yeah. 21 years of marriage, but Monday and Tuesday look rough this week.
Right. Yeah. So
that's a hard sell.
Pardon my absence, everyone, but I had priorities to attend to. And so, but it was great. We had a great time. I took us on Monday night. We left Monday night, or Monday afternoon, actually. We went up to Sandpoint, which, for those that don't know, is about a little less than an hour north of Coeur d'Alene. And we went to a nice little restaurant called Baxter's and had a good dinner. It was just the two of us really in the restaurant until near the end. It was kind of nice. Not a lot of people going to eat at 4 p.m. on a Monday afternoon in Sandpoint. So,
I'm guessing you're going to say no before I ask, and I'm already disappointed, but I will ask it nevertheless. Is Baxter's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles evil villain themed restaurant with Baxter the Fly?
Surprisingly, yes. It is exactly
wow.
that.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
My God, what a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was not.
Like, all they had was pepperoni pizza. It was great.
Kevin Eastman is in the back cooking food. Yeah, no, sorry. I think it more had to do with the owner's dog. There's a dog on the logo, so I think that's where the name came from.
Yeah,
but it was great. But we went early to dinner because we needed to go to the grocery store to get supplies, because we were going up to Hope, Idaho, which is just outside of Sandpoint. And we went up this sidewinder, twisty road up the mountain to a cabin way up on top. And it was a really modern cabin. It must have been built in the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And it really like modern architecture, stilt housing on top of a garage, just kind of, but everything in it was top of the line, refrigerator. Nice. The whole system was automated. Everything was all automated. Really nice place. But the upper deck view where the main bedroom looked directly out onto Lake Pend Oreille.
Yeah.
And so Lake Pend Oreille is a gorgeous lake. And they had a hot tub on the downstairs deck. And so we spent a couple hours there and just really enjoyed the peace and quiet and enjoyed hanging out together. And we made like a giant charcuterie board while we were there, just to kind of graze off of the whole time. And then next morning we got up, had some coffee, then we drove down and had some brunch down at Connie's, which is a great little place in Sandpoint. And then we went back to town, and earlier, like a month or two ago, I had asked my wife, I gave her the option. I was like, look, I can afford to do one, but not both.
Mm-hmm.
What would you rather have? Would you rather? And she chose new couch. And so we went and bought her a new couch. And so now we have a big sectional couch that is
Nice.
very nice couch. And now it can fit my whole family. Before it was just the needs were me and my wife,
It's basically
and then our
lawn chairs. Yeah.
two small children,
Yeah.
and that was it, and maybe enough room for a dog. But now, the kids are bringing their significant others over. My mom always camps out on the couch when she's here. So, like, there's been and I have my chair, but the way that everything's positioned, I have a hard time sitting in my chair because I don't like my back to the door.
Yeah.
And so, but it is an extra seat. So now we've got the giant sectional couch, which now fits everybody who wants to sit on it, plus my chair. So we've got plenty of seating now with the dogs, with, anybody who wants to sit on it. So it's really nice. She's very much enjoying it. My favorite thing about the couch is that although it's taller, it also has a lower profile to the ground as far as clearance. And one of our dogs, Guinevere, who is taken to playing fetch with tennis balls, her favorite thing to do is intentionally throw it under the couch so it gets us involved. We have to get up and get it out from under the couch from her, and it's super annoying. And because she'll just keep repeatedly doing it, and she won't stop whining until one of us gets up to get the ball. So this couch is low enough to the ground that not even a small tennis ball can get underneath there. So yeah, so we eliminated a huge problem there. So
that's thinking ahead. I like that.
Yeah. So, but besides that, 21 years of marriage.
Congrats again.
Thank you. We've been together for 23. But 21 years of marriage. Now my marriage is old enough to drink the Guinness that we celebrate it with every year.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's a weird thing to think that I've been with somebody for that long. And that even after 21 years of marriage, not only do we still love each other, but we still like each other. Like we enjoy hanging out together. I mean, she even works with me 3 days a week, so I don't get tired of her, and that's not to say we don't irritate each other from time to time, obviously, but and we don't have our eye rolling kind of normal kind of annoyances that couples have when you get comfortable. But I could not have asked for a better person to team up with for this journey. And I'm very happy with 21 years. We've done a lot. We were reflecting while we were there about how much, because they always joke about dad lore. They always joke about my life before I met her. And I lived like 3 lifetimes before I even met her.
Yeah.
But even then, like, I tried to, I put it into perspective for her. Said, no, look at all the stuff we've done since we've been together. Like, we've done a ton of things, living here and traveling there and doing this and doing that, and all of the different things that we've tackled together is pretty significant, and it's pretty impressive. And I'm very, very happy to have had somebody willing to go along, and not only go along, but champion and celebrate all of the weird eccentricities that I have led her through, and for her to also find her own path that I've also supported, not out of obligation, but because I think that what she was doing was the right thing. And so there's been quite the journey that we've had, and I've been very, very happy to have it. So, but yeah, just a little reflection on that. But that was my week outside of work, which work has picked up significantly. So I've been pretty busy, and
Also
then
good.
also picking up a lot of the shifts for the security detail at church, which I'm waiting for the weather to get better for that to be more enjoyable. But I'm not going to complain on something I volunteered for.
Right.
But that being said, how was your week?
That was interesting. Particularly today. Have you ever had those like self-reflective moments where someone like, I don't know, example, just calls you an asshole, and then like hours later you're like, you know what? I was being an asshole. Maybe that was an apt title for the time kind of thing. I had one of those today, and I'll break it down for you. One of a dear friend of mine and ours at the podcast, Prunesy, sent me an honest question, and I'm starting to wonder if I have anger management issues based on the breakdown. He sends me a link to Facebook, which is tough because I don't have a Facebook, so I have to open every time I get a Facebook link directly. I have to open it in a browsing window and watch it and stuff. Unmute everything and deny all the no, I don't want to sign up for you things.
I'll interject an apology for my contributions to that as well.
It's okay because Instagram's owned by Meta, right? So like all those things are very interchangeable, but it's just one of those deals. So I throw it up, and the question he poses is an honest one. It says, as a writer, what do you make of this? Dude steps right in front of Alan, clearly flipped over the handlebars and caused him to wreck. And there's probably a 6-minute video of Alan Richardson, the guy that plays in Reacher. And it looks like he has 2 kids with him too, are riding motorcycles through a neighborhood, presumably their own neighborhood. And this guy who is like doing the full Karen move is at the end of his driveway and like steps out, arms up, steps out again, and like jumps in front of his motorcycle. And he's not doing very fast. He's doing like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 miles an hour, but the guy won't move. And so he like grenades the front brakes, and the bike goes down, and he flips over the handlebars. What ensues is the guy screaming and yelling and pushing his motorcycle over, and Alan Richardson hits the dude, pushes him over, hits him a few more times, and was like, dude, what are you know, whatever. Now, since then, apparently nobody's been arrested. He's had a body cam footage on while he was riding. The whole thing is captured. It's all over the internet, apparently. But his question was pretty simple. Like, what do you make of this? And here's what I wrote. This is actually what I wrote. I said, if that motherfucker jumps in front of me and causes me to drop my bike like that, I would beat the teeth out of his face and then suffer whatever penalties for it. Sure, I'll go to jail for assault. But for the rest of that person's life, they'd understand that being a Karen and involving your opinion onto somebody else's life often has extreme consequences. He would longingly look at a glass of baking soda water that he puts his dentures into as he goes to bed, and he'll think to himself every night, you know, maybe that wasn't worth it. Maybe I should just leave people alone and call the police and let them decide if the biker was too fast or too loud for the neighborhood. And as the fuzzy little bubbles go up the dentures in the glass and he adjusts his nightgown, he'll softly mutter to himself as he slips into slumber, man, I missed my real teeth. And guess what? Hours later, I don't feel bad about it. That's exactly what I would do, because I've had people do that shit to me in cars where like they're pissed off that some other person I'm not even with goes screaming down the road on a motorcycle. And here comes me just putting along. And I always ride with a camera on, where they'll back their car out, throw a car door open, throw shit at me. I've had people throw stuff at me for no reason at all. And I had one guy under underpass, like pass me illegally through a median and then stop his car in an underpass, throw open the door and take 2 steps toward me. And I put the kickstand down on my bike, didn't take my helmet off, didn't take my gloves off, took my leg off the bike and stood there. And I think he realized, well, he's in a full helmet. He's built to go sliding down the concrete at a high rate of speed. And he has very big carbon fiber, like shunt pieces over his knuckles. This is probably not a good idea for me, the car driver. and immediately like gets back in his car and leaves. But I didn't do anything to this guy. He just apparently didn't like my reaction time to the light. So I started realizing like maybe I do have a bit of an anger issue, or like my relationship to anger is maybe not the most healthy, but I still stand by what I wrote.
No, I would disagree. I think you have an appropriate level. I think that people are involving themselves so heavily into other people's lives and trying to police them. It's like everyone thinks that they're the HOA.
Right.
Like, and I don't understand that. Like, sure, if someone's creating a crime and there's people getting hurt or something to that effect, yeah, involve yourself. But even then, like,
because here's the deal.
Like, the only reason that anybody would even involve themselves in, because nobody does when an actual crime is happening, because now everyone's afraid that they're the ones that are going to get sued and in trouble and go to jail if they interject in any way. We've seen case after case of that. The only reason that they do it is when they know a crime isn't being committed and it's just an inconvenience for them. So the stakes aren't high enough for anyone to actually go to jail for. And they will throw themselves wholeheartedly into a nonsensical rage into somebody's life, and then when consequences get hammered down, they will act like a victim.
Right.
And that is silly behavior for humans to act like.
That's kind of why I was like, I'm sure I'd go to jail for that, but this person would every night think about his missing teeth, and that's what's important to me, because 100% is a guarantee. My math is perfect. Take a calculator and try to beat me. 100% of the time, a car is going to win against a motorcycle. Every time.
100% of them. Yep.
And that's your life. So like when people fuck with you when you're on two wheels and throw stuff at you and like, I don't really take that very lightly. Like, it's one thing to knock over a motorcycle and be like, oh, damn it, now I have things to pay for and that's really expensive and hard to replace. It's another thing if you're on the motorcycle and it goes over, because it's extraordinarily damaging. I've wrecked at a low speed and broke 4 ribs doing it at like 2 miles an hour. It's serious business. So you shouldn't mess with people generally to that degree. You shouldn't Karen out no matter what, for all the reasons you described.
Especially a behemoth like Alan Rickson.
Yeah, like that's a guy that you probably wouldn't want to mess with. No matter what, and the video shows it. So
yeah,
you can watch all 6 minutes of it. It's all over everywhere now. But I hadn't seen or heard it until he had sent it to me. But I was just like, man, that was a pretty. And I didn't even hesitate. I just started typing all of that out. I was like, yeah, no, I still probably would do that because that's just what you do. But it was a self-reflective moment for sure.
I honestly believe that the audacity of Karens has existed forever. Like there's always going to be that one person who thinks that they have the right to tell other people what to do in any capacity. But I believe that the audacity of Karens has been amplified by these. And I think that they have lost sight of what the consequences of human interaction actually is. You don't get to be the guy you are on the internet screaming at people for not doing what you want them to do.
None of the shit was this bad before COVID, when everyone got to be anonymous and keyboard warrior for so many years off their phone. 100%.
Yeah,
like, you
and
just
so now we've got all these people who are trying to IRL their internet rage.
Right.
And it's exploding everywhere. I mean, you can't go a day without seeing someone throwing fists in an airplane or an airport or at some type of grocery store
today. It's out of control.
Yeah.
Like,
how do you parking lots? How
do you expect to not get jail time for stuff like that? You can't do that to people. There's limits. And for guys, you know, the male propensity to violence comes naturally. There are moments, especially with guys, in every guy's life, where you know there's a line, and if you cross that line, you run the risk of somebody striking you, and then it comes down to, can you strike better than that guy to prove whatever point you had? And that's just how self-regulation goes among men. That's just how it is. Unfortunately, Alan Richardson is built out of pure muscle, and he's like 600 feet tall, and like getting up off the ground and towering over this Karen at the end of his driveway was, and of course, to exactly your point, this guy's all over social media now, showing off his little scrapes on his face and playing victim. It's like, that's not how that works, man. Like,
Yeah.
imagine if he ended his bike and you killed Alan Richardson because he broke his neck.
Or it hurt his kids who were right behind him.
And if those were his kids, like right in front of his kids, like, was it worth you screaming and yelling and standing in front of him as he's riding down the road? And also, who the fuck stands in front of a moving vehicle as they're coming down the road? He wasn't even screaming down the road. He was just putting down the road. But nevertheless, who does that? Like,
Yeah.
I would be like, oh, this guy's trying to rob me. And I would roll the throttle on and hit the man as hard as I could with a bike or a car. No. Be like, why did you jump in front of me, man?
Given the status too of him as an actor, I would imagine the neighborhood he lives in is not an average neighborhood.
It looked like a nice gated community type of place. Yeah.
It's an upper end neighborhood. He's a huge TV and movie star. Like, there's no way that guy's just living in general suburbia, even in a nice area.
Yeah.
So you could imagine that they probably have a well-funded police force that's very nearby, and that one phone call would have easily brought a couple of patrol cars there to handle the situation, to say, hey, there's somebody screaming down the street on a motorcycle back and forth. If that was even the case, I'm going to worst case scenario here, but if that was even the case, that type of neighborhood, you can call the police. They're going to show up really quickly. They're not going to wait. You're not going to have a half an hour to an hour wait time. It's not Baltimore. It's not,
it happened in Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's what I was just Googling. Yeah.
It's I'll guarantee you, they had cops on the wait and ready for any little neighborhood disturbance in that type of neighborhood. That's all that guy had to do.
Yeah.
He didn't have to jump out there. He didn't have to involve himself, but he was trying to be a hero. Mm-hmm. He was trying to prove his point, and one up and best another human being to prove his authority over him.
Yeah.
And it is the basis of tyrannical behavior. It is cowardice masked under what he thinks is courage. And I don't agree with it. I think that he should have either left well enough alone and let people just have fun on motorcycles, or if it was egregious and it was dangerous and the guy was almost hitting cats crossing the street or somebody's car, call the cops.
Call the cops.
Like,
and that's what I wrote in that little diatribe too. Is just like, maybe he'll think next time, man, I should just call the cops and let them figure out what's where.
Right. Instead of losing your teeth.
Sometimes it can't be helped. Where you live might have a homeowners association and stuff. But one of the pinnacle points for my purchasing my house is I didn't want to live in an HOA. And you run the risk of noisy dogs and parties and stuff like that if you don't have a good neighborhood. But at the end of the day, you don't have some little nerd running around looking over your fence with a clipboard trying to take notes on, and there's plenty of videos
out there.
Grass
is, or if you have a unregistered bush.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the color of taupe that you painted that easement doesn't match our color standards for the neighbor. Like, I just can't. I'd be like, dude, get off my porch or I will fucking throw you off the porch. You know what I mean? Like, just that type of stuff. I can't. I just can't. So I was doing a little reflecting, like, wow, that came out naturally. I wonder if I have a problem with anger. Anyway, I had a pretty good week other than that. Not much going on. A lot of work-related stuff and shit. That's about it. Getting back into the swing.
Yeah.
Hot. It's unusually hot down here. It's 95 degrees already, and it's not even the end of March. So we're breaking like every record we can for hottest day in history type of stuff because we're just getting a freak heat wave before the summer. So, and that's it.
Yeah, it's weird. Up here, we got the opposite where we got a freak cold blast. Like, the wind came through with this massive windstorm. And then the next day, it snowed over a foot in town, and the mountains got the best snow that they'd gotten all year, and actually extended the kind of weak season that they had.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a huge snowstorm, and snow stayed for a couple of days too before it decided to kind of warm up enough to melt it all off. Now we're just getting rained on. So, but still relatively cold here. So,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really matter. No one cares because they're all in line and excited for the new Raising Cane's chicken place.
Oh,
that
you're
just
getting a
opened
Raising
up.
Cane's.
We just got it. It opened up on St. Patty's Day.
It's amazing marketing because all they do is chicken tenders and fries. That's it.
That's what I was saying to Erin because we went there for lunch today.
Yeah,
and she'd never had it. Now
I mean, the dipping sauce is great, but that's literally all they do. That's it.
Yeah, it's chicken, French fries, coleslaw, Texas toast,
and soda,
which all comes together, and then you can get a chicken sandwich.
Oh, they do sandwiches. Okay, yeah,
but
it's made of the strips, sandwich. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's it. So that's all you can get there. But the marketing is absolutely genius. So I think they kind of are trying to make themselves kind of the in and out of chicken shacks where you have a limited menu, but they're fast, their service is really good, and the food is really good.
You know what they're excellent at? Catering. You can get like all the chicken strips and a bunch of toast and like 1,000 dipping sauce cups and just send it over to the house for $30 or whatever it is. And it's like, it's pretty good. Like, oh, we have last minute people coming over this weekend. I don't feel like cooking. Raising Cane's. Everyone's stoked. There's miles of chicken strips as far as you can see. It works. Good stuff.
All right. So, but all right. Well, now that we've caught up on the week.
Yeah.
Before we get into that first topic, I'm curious, have you been watching the Afro Man trial?
No, I haven't.
Two interesting stories this week. One, a quadriplegic cornhole player we caught this last night, but it's all over the internet. A quadriplegic man who is a championship cornhole player is now in jail at the moment for murdering somebody with a gun.
Yeah.
And I've watched video after video of this guy actually firing a gun.
Yeah, I did too. Like on his Instagram reels of shooting his 9mm with his stubs and stuff.
It was wild. But the Afro Man trial has been an interesting situation because a couple of years ago, the Afro Man is that kind of stoner rapper hippie guy, and he apparently his house got raided like a couple of years ago, and they like came into his house and then just started kind of making fun of him and eating food out of his fridge and all of this crazy stuff. The cops were all like doing weird stuff in there, and I don't know all the details, but I remember
vaguely. Did they get a contact high and immediately go for munchies, or?
I have no idea, but they didn't find anything in his house.
Yeah.
So it was whatever they were looking for, they didn't find it. And he started for the next couple of years finding out about all of the cops who kind of violated his rights and violated the situation. Found out who they all were, and then just started making songs about them and making fun of them. And they tried to sue him for defamation.
Yeah.
And this guy shows up in a full American flag suit, like head to toe American flag suit, and schools their lawyer and everything on rights and his free speech and the fact that it's not defamation because he never said anything about them that they didn't do, and he ended up winning.
Nice.
And so he won the lawsuit and then decided to make more songs about him winning the lawsuit against these guys. So
the beat goes on. That's great. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you, Afro Man. Fucking tell him, Steve Dave.
But our first topic tonight is kind of a serious one.
Yeah.
And I I have actually some background to this.
Yeah,
So
I have some thoughts, but go on.
yeah, so Joe Kent.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to talk about Joe Kent. I want to talk about the fall of Joe Kent.
Sure.
Um, and the reason why I call it the fall of Joe Kent is because I was a huge Joe Kent supporter when he was running for the 3rd congressional district in Washington State.
Yeah.
And for anyone who knows, it's the southwest giant chunk of the state that he was running for. And during his run, and he's a war hero who served, I think he was a Green Beret, and he was serving in special ops and had been overseas numerous times. And his wife, he's actually a Gold Star husband, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife got killed in action over in, I think, Afghanistan. And so he was kind of an advocate against certain things, but um and an advocate for like gold starring people and stuff like that. So, but he I was really, you know, he was really conservative. He was a strong voice. He was very articulate. He did all the tours of like Tim Pool, and it was on all the shows, and I
Yep.
really liked him. However, he started campaigning and was doing really well. He actually looked to be on the trajectory to win that run for the 3rd congressional district. And then he Nick Fuentes and the Groypers decided that they were going to vocally support him
Mm-hmm.
and start backing him. And he actually went out of his way and said, I don't think so. I'm actually pro-Israel, and I do not want your I don't want you to support me. He goes, I don't want your nod. I don't want to have anything to do with you guys. And Nick Fuentes took such offense to that he goes, oh, we're going to support you even harder because we know our reputation will hurt you.
Yeah.
So they put out billboards kind of tying Joe Kent to their movement, and then sent operatives, of which I know personally. So they sent Joe Prado and they sent Vincent James from Idaho to all of his rallies in Washington to cause scenes and videotape them. And so they ended up tanking his run and hurting him to the point where he ended up not winning. And it was on tiny margins that he did not win. And so he he did that and lost. And we were hoping we could find a different place for Joe Kent. You know, we were even looking in Idaho. Hey, move to Idaho. Like, we got spots for you here. And then he got picked up by the Trump administration. And he got picked up for being on, I can't remember the council exactly that he's on, but he was on some type of, on the war council of some kind. And he was there for a little while, probably about 9 months to a year in that realm.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of nowhere, without talking to anybody, he resigned and then flipped and said that he cannot support this administration anymore because of the war in Iran, and that it is a war for Israel and that Israel is controlling it. And which is exactly the opposite of what he's been saying publicly for years.
Right into the America First narrative, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And so this isolationist, integralist kind of idealism that think that, and it is a 180 flip for him as far as ideologically. And so I was really kind of bummed to lose somebody like Joe Kent to something as stupid as this concept that Israel controls the United States, which is preposterous, especially when you look at what AIPAC actually actually does and who they actually are. You know, they have been cartoonishly blown out of proportion as to how they control our Congress and our Senate, and that they have their puppet strings all over everybody. The amount of money is pennies in comparison to even the real estate agent pack is the number one in the country. They're like 50th, if not less than that, as far as the money. Qatar, the money that gets allotted through what is it called, with PACs, lobbyists, that gets lobbied, Qatar gets 10 times as much as APAC does. So like, it doesn't even make sense to even claim that this country is steering that Israel is steering America by the nose everywhere it goes, and it's, allies help allies. That is the
yeah. It's
100%
convenient to
across.
finger Israel for all this, but you completely isolate the other places within this pack. You have Qatar, you have the UAE, like Lebanon. There's like all these different spots that are like, actually Iran is really bad for business generally speaking, and this isn't Israel leading the US by the nose. I have a way
not at all.
darker hypothesis on this guy than you just presented.
Okay, but as far as like the rest of my thought goes, I was really just upset with him, and I thought he was smarter than to think that Israel was I mean, he's been in the military. He knows that what he's saying isn't true.
Right.
So and then immediately goes on a press tour and goes to Tucker, goes to all the sympathetic ears that are already like turning on Israel, which is prophesied in Zechariah 14:2, prophesied in Zechariah 12:3, Ezekiel 38:15 through 16, Joel 3:2, and Revelation 16:16, and more. But this has all been prophesied, that all of these nations and all of these people would be weirdly turning against Israel for whatever reason during this time frame. So he just falls right into that, and that kind of trickles into after you get done, it kind of trickles into my next kind of idea of the MAGA pundit flip, and how we're losing a lot of these kind of conservative pundits due to them finding money where money comes from, and it's not Israel. And then also that they know how to get clickbait, and they're just finding a boogeyman instead of actually thinking it through. It's intellectual stopping. They stop right there, and they're like, I found my boogeyman. I don't have to think anymore. Everything I can blame right here, and then I don't have to worry about what real evil is, or what true evil is, or that evil can come from any corner, any race, any human, and they just want to intellectually stop. And so that's what my next portion of this is, with a couple of people I kind of want to focus on. But what is your take on Joe Kent and his obvious flip?
I mean, at a glance, and I didn't support him for as long, I guess, in the comeuppance in the Washington 3rd Congressional District, but I do think it's a man scrambling for friends. Right. It's worth noting he lost 2 congressional runs, 22 and 24, in that same 3rd district. I believe the last one he lost to was a pretty weak, moderate Democrat, Marie Gluesenkamp Perez. And then he was appointed to the national security role. So he's a top U.S. counterterrorism official. But he failed to win in a swing district with Trump's endorsement. Right. So he got handpicked and put onto this thing even after all of that. So the resignation rolls around, and he resigns, citing that he could not in good conscience support the war in Iran, which he argues is pushed by misinformation from Israeli officials. Right. So the words he's standing on are that there's no imminent threat, which is now what everyone, CBS and NBC and all these people are running on, is, well, where's the imminent threat? Well, let's maybe take the constant nagging threat as a better descriptor for imminent threat, if you just ignore the nuclear race altogether, like for the Middle East, right? Because, well, India's got one. Why can't we build one? We're Iran. Everyone loves us, right? Right? Not a good idea. So it's this imminent threat thing that is kind of causing all this fracture now within the administration because everyone's looking at it. And now subsequent folks, which I'm sure you're going to drive toward, are saying that Trump's now weak on security. So that's kind of what's echoing through the MAGA establishment chambers. What I find very curious is that immediately following his resignation, reports are emerging everywhere about the FBI investigating Kent and the alleged leakage of a fuckload of classified information. So
100%.
Here's what I wrote. Here's a guy that dies in the public sphere as a martyr to people like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and Nick Fuentes. I am not sad in the least, and neither should you be. Like, this is a guy that's now scrambling to find friends. And if it comes out in this FBI investigation that more nefarious activities were due for a guy that couldn't stand up his own swing district twice before getting handpicked and appointed by the president whose endorsement he was carrying through both runs, is he really that good of a politician? Would he have been? Probably not. Right. So I'm not super broken up about it, and I don't think the MAGA establishment should break themselves up over it either, because to me this feels like a one-man army to save face in the public sphere. But unfortunately, the people that can carry his name to good graces are the Candace Owens and the Tucker Carlsons of the world, and I could give a shit less.
Right.
That's the way, which is a way darker twist. Like, him as an individual, I'm certain probably had many more good qualities than any run-of-the-mill, moderate or otherwise Democrat in Washington State. We've both lived there for a long time. That establishment is a sick and dying old man. But the reaction and actions against the only name that was actually carrying him some amount of favor in the Republican Party, all the way up to a counterterrorism post, you can't just shit on that name and then hope things are going to go well without scrambling for some friends, right?
That's the point I want to make on that. Is that
who else is coming out of the woodwork in Canada? Pierre Poilievre's all over the news doing his rerun for how conservatism is great. The only reason he got his ass beat was because he turned on Trump right before the election as well. And we covered that extensively on this show. So that's it's kind of the same playbook I'm seeing, but it's happening simultaneously.
Totally. And if he had any lick of honor in him, which he should as a military man of prestige. Mm-hmm. And there is a protocol for how you do that. If you disagree with the administration that you are currently under and were appointed to,
and being propped
by the
up
president
by
himself, and by propped up by, what you do is you don't disagree with them publicly.
Right.
If there's no nefarious action, you go, I cannot support this. I'm going to resign, but we'll say it's for other reasons and I'll back away. That is the respectful way to do that. He didn't even tell them. He didn't give he just said, I'm resigning right now, and threw his fingers up and said, the Trump administration needs to be torn down. This is how it works. Right. I hate this. He
drops a mic and then goes wild on Twitter. Like, to me, that seems like a real cheap and easy public sphere way out, where you can rally the opposition.
He's attention fishing because he knows he has to. He knows that what I'm guessing is that he realized and got wind that there was an investigation coming his way because he was actually throwing information. And
those are serious charges if he's indicted.
Yeah.
Like,
and so what do? You get ahead of it. You resign and say, it's because I don't support this war. And then you go on a tour to make sure that everyone sympathizes with you. So it looks as if these FBI charges that are coming your way aren't legitimate. They're retaliatory. So that way it frames it in that correct.
And just hope you get tried in the 5th district in New York.
Right. Who hates Trump and will give anybody who's against Trump a pass.
Because I studied the timeline when you sent this this morning for like 30 minutes, and I went, this feels pretty greasy to me. All of it.
100%.
And he might have been, I won't take any of his accomplishments away, like, thanks for your service and all the stuff that you've done, and probably the values that you would have represented if you did win your congressional district and all the stuff that you ran on. But without Donald Trump, you would not have a career. And now you're going to turn on all of this propping up with can't do this in good conscience. It's all misinformation from Israeli officials, and there's no imminent threat in the Middle East. Like, now you're going to do the tour to save your bacon in the eye of the court of the public opinion, perhaps before the real court gets you on charges that are they're actually saying, well, believe it or not, we've been investigating you for alleged leakage of classified information for some time. Now that's plunging his reputation further into controversy as well, probably from the MAGA establishment that hasn't, quote, fractured. But in terms of the people championing this guy, I could give two squirts of piss.
And that's the thing. He thought what he was going to do is go to the people that would allow him or sympathize with what he had to say, but those are the people that have lost so much credibility, the Tucker Carlsons, the Candace Owens, that it actually just bolsters my mistrust of him.
Right,
because if that's
Candace went on and glazed this guy for like 40 minutes on her show about what an American patriot and how he can see through all the Israeli bullshit, and it's like, oh God, Candace, like, you know, I didn't even sit through the whole thing, but it's pretty horrible. I did not know the precursor to this was the embadening or the further shittening of the America First folks during his campaign, pulling the shenanigans. Those were pieces that I didn't know ahead of time. But
yeah, he was on our radar early on because of that. And so you know,
go back to the devil, you know, that seems gross and greasy, doesn't it?
Well, it was even a surprise to them. Like Nick Fuentes and like our local idiot Dave Riley, they were both like, "Oh, well, based, buddy. I guess you're on our team again." You know, like because they had hated him since that whole situation. Nick actually did a whole episode where he celebrated his loss and said, "We did that to you. The Groypers made you lose. That's how much power we have." And like went on a whole like victory lap on it, and it was gross, but that's actually what happened to our Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeehan here. Hers, I believe, was far more innocent. I think that she just didn't realize, because she's of a certain age bracket, that when you say America First, she thinks it's like Trump's America First, or you know, Sebastian Gorka's America First. Right. And she just gave him a video, and the video got played at AFPAC 3, and it blew up her campaign, because then everyone in Boise had a microphone in front of her face and go, you know, "You're getting pictures with Dave Riley and Vincent James and you're supporting Nick Fuentes? Is this really what you're doing?" She was like, "I don't know. I don't understand what's going on. Who are those guys?" Like, and it didn't matter. Like, down in Boise, it tanked her, and they did that on purpose. They know exactly. There's a term called smear carrying. They know their reputation. They know if they attach their reputation onto a political figure, that it will actually hurt them rather than help them. And so they will support somebody knowing full well that what it's actually going to do is tank their campaign. So the best thing to do is, you know, denounce them and say, this isn't my ideals. We have vastly different world concepts, and I want nothing to do with these people. So unfortunately what this has done is it's kind of opened up a lot of things, but I've been noticing and heartbreakingly, week after week, we lose one or more, like Tucker and all, you know, Candace and all of them. It has been one after the other where we keep losing these conservative voices and these big pundits that were huge during COVID, huge during, you know, all of the Trump campaigning and stuff like that were big voices for us. And now we're losing guys like even JP Sears, the funny redheaded guy. You know, the guy JP Sears has completely gone to the dark side of like anti-Israel, anti-Jew. He's making like less funny videos about how they're almost serious toned. His sarcasm has kind of been tampered down, and he's being kind of snarky more than he is like satirical. And
We're at the period of
it,
time where even if we like somebody on the dope, we have to qualify it with, as of Tuesday, March 24th, 2026, we like this person. Because who the fuck
exactly.
knows what they're going to wind up flying off the handle on the next week. And it's weird to me how fast these Venn diagrams are shifting around with these political infighting pieces, you know, especially with all the
it speaks to the fatigue that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, the you know, all the social influencers on the right that are dropping like flies to madness. You know,
one of them, which is one of your favorites and my favorites, is Sean Ryan. We've lost Sean Ryan.
Yeah.
And I just found this out like yesterday when I started watching, and it was a big deal. He had Wesley Huff on there, and I loved that he brought Wesley Huff, who is a historian and linguist and apologist that is probably one of the best voices right now. He was on Joe Rogan and a bunch of the big podcasts.
Yeah.
And Wesley Huff, I fully admire. As of today, I fully admire him.
Yeah. And I just watched this Sean Ryan episode in its entirety about a week ago.
Yeah. And now, shortly thereafter, he had an integralist Catholic priest who came on and basically spent the entirety of the episode talking about replacement theology, and that the Jews are the ones that killed Jesus, and that the Jews are evil, Israel's evil, and that Catholicism and Christianity should be 100% against this synagogue of Satan, and just feeding him full of bad theology. Yeah. And Sean's a baby Christian. And so Sean's just absorbing everything. And unfortunately, he doesn't have the discernment or the people around him to kind of filter through some of that nonsense. And so he is eating it up because, you know, I think he's very intelligent in a lot of ways. I don't think he's very intelligent when it comes to kind of broader philosophical or theological thinking. And I think that he's easily susceptible to being given a bad guy as a soldier, given a bad guy and said, this is your enemy. Right. And for him to be able to put his teeth in it like a pit bull and go, yep, you're right, that's my enemy, which is why he goes so hard against like Roblox and all of the human trafficking stuff and everything. And God bless him for that.
Yeah, he's exposed a lot of real darkness in the world up to this point, which is good 100%. That somebody, you know, in the face of a bunch of people shitting on him, because I even kind of took his side on the him versus Dan Crenshaw thing. And I was just like, actually, Crenshaw, you're not answering any of the questions regarding all the finances that you're recklessly spending on public dime. It would be quite interesting. And I respect some of the stuff that he's doing. You know, he's very vocal about the, you know, drugs and all this stuff. Great. But yeah, I'm with you there. And that's exactly the reason I would put on it is the lack of discernment is probably very easy to be susceptible to new theological ideas that you don't have any point of reference against to know if it's
right. And the problem is that once you open up that can of worms and you start going down that path, it's the only thing you end up talking about. Name, like Candace Owens could talk about a billion different topics that were going on currently in the world. Now all she talks about is Israel. Tucker used to do the same thing. Now all he talks about is Israel. It's because when you find that you can try to blame through the Charlie Day string theory in the background, and you try to connect historically through cherry-picked and misconstrued and bald-faced lies about history, that you try to build this narrative and frame it to a point where everything funnels into Israel. And so it becomes an obsession. That's what all of the Groypers do. That's what Nick Fuentes does. That's
the
what
new 6 Degrees
Rebecca
of
does,
Kevin Bacon.
All of them.
It's 6 Degrees of Benjamin Netanyahu, and it's really tired.
It's funny because no other group on the planet now has autonomy. They all are now just puppets of Israel. No one acts on their own. No Muslim group acts on their own. They're all being controlled by Israel. They can't just, if they do terrorist acts, it's somehow a false flag. Like every single thing that they do. And so I'm terrified for the JP Sears, and I'm terrified for, the Sean Ryans, who had wonderful programs and did amazing work for years, and really exposed a lot of cool stuff for us as people. And then the next thing you know, every other show is going to be some Israel hating, contentionist that is basically there just to divide Christians against each other. And that's what's going to end up happening is, once that ball starts rolling, he'll go the way of Tucker. He'll go the way, unless somebody gets in there and goes, what you were told is wrong, like publicly on his show, and sit there and go. And so we need somebody who can go in there and actually sit down on a show and go, hey, remember those 3 episodes? Here's why they were wrong.
Right.
And give him the alternative perspective, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
Maybe we should write him a letter from our podcast to his. Like, I think you're right. And the only saving grace that I have a huge degree of respect for Sean Ryan on so far is that he's not afraid to do a breaking news walk and talk with a camera when he fucks something up. Like if he mislabels something or called out the wrong name or whatever, he'll be like, I have to correct what I just said on this podcast because it was incorrect.
Oh yeah.
Or
he's very good at that.
He's really, really good at getting in front of that stuff before it becomes huge, but he needs to be shown. Well, maybe there's a few holes in that imperial replacement theory that's being driven by the monarch of the Catholic Church that's self-proclaimed representing of all Catholicism.
Right.
Like, and that seems big and powerful and important, but, the
SSPX integralist version of it. So
why not maybe poke some holes in that before we just wholesale buy in,
Yeah.
That part hurts more than, in my opinion, than the Joe Kents of the world, because to me, I can see him playing a PR shell game in front of a possible indictment, for all the reasons we described. But yeah, that stuff sucks because there's just not a lot. Frankly, I hate to be critical of conservatism as a whole. There isn't very good conservative programming. There just isn't. And the few that we do have that get picked off and run down the drain around this Israel bullshit is getting tired, Yeah. It's like we don't have too many left. And there's some that I can agree with points on and still don't really enjoy a lot of their programming. Oftentimes, that's almost the entire lineup of the Daily Wire. There's a bunch of cool stuff on it, but I'm just kind of like a little whatever on it. But I don't know. We'll see if they get Jordan Peterson next, and then I'm just packing it in.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. He's taken all those Jewish shekels right now over at the Daily Wire. You know that.
Yeah.
So yeah, even though the Daily Wire is actually not owned by Ben Shapiro, it's actually owned by the other guy who is actually not Jewish. So, but whatever.
There's that.
Yeah. So
sorry, Candace.
Yeah. Let's switch gears because I want to talk about some pretty tragic news for the United States, for the world, for for humanity. We lost probably one of the most significant figures in human history this week, when Chuck Norris decided to roundhouse kick his way into heaven.
Yeah.
And the way he died was pretty incredible. But I'm gonna let you kind of spearhead this on your feelings, because I know you really wanted to talk about on
Well,
the
it
death of
just
Chuck Norris.
hurts. It just hurts. Like I remember as uh, a kid that just left California and had no friends and got really sick, moving into mountain air where I couldn't breathe really well, and having, all the asthma diagnosis and this and that, and immune system shutting down, and constantly like, very sickly child off and on since leaving California. And one of the first like VHS tape movies that I got my hands on was Sidekicks, which kind of shows the story of basically the most identifiable me version of me on the silver
Yeah,
screen being guided through a cool karate tournament type of situation by Chuck Norris. And Chuck Norris, I don't think was in that film for very long, but it was one of those like, oh man, that guy's rad. And then, he's a larger than life dude. And then you go through his whole catalog later and hi, Aaron B. Yes, Sidekicks for sure. So for me, it was like,
oh, she's fully aware of Sidekicks,
that's
and it's
instant
not
hero
for Chuck
status.
Norris.
That's instant hero status for me, right?
Or it
Like
wasn't for Chuck Norris. For her, it was
the kid that
what was
played
his
the
name? Yeah,
asthmatic child.
Jonathan. What was it, Aaron B? Jonathan who? Brandis, Jonathan Brandis.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a big crush on him when she was little, so that's why she's very familiar with Sidekicks.
Yeah. And like,
Just side note.
Chuck's just awesome. Like, he's every piece of furniture in his house was a total gem for years and years. And all the
Yeah.
jokes that just won't stop have been highly entertaining. And he kind of embraced all that stuff as a second life, like even as a meme. Like he was really on top
He
of it.
didn't have to either.
Yeah, and even in like the movies that are obviously like a significant nod toward the 80s and 90s action heroes called the Expendables, which it's just gratuitous violence and machismo for the sake of doing it, and it's really funny because it has all those, Stallone and Dolph Lundgren and
tropes.
Jet Li
Yeah.
and like everybody that's up there. And even Chuck Norris is telling Chuck Norris jokes in these films about himself,
I love
and
that.
with a straight face. And it's like, this guy's just the best, dude. Like, and it really sucks because as a kid, he's like idol status. As an adult, he's just like one of those favorite, I really like that guy still kind of guys,
Oh yeah.
So, and really active on, media and social media right up until the end there. And it's just unfortunate because I really like Chuck Norris. I thought Chuck Norris was a cool dude, and I like all the ethos around Chuck Norris just as a product by itself is fucking awesome. So yeah,
Well,
she agrees.
I mean-
The reason I climb a rope is because of Chuck Norris explanation. Yes, Jonathan
That's
Brandis,
right.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it just, it's one of those. Oh man, that one hit
But
close to home.
I wonder
so.
if they're both in heaven, just doing sidekicks together now, because
Probably.
they both are there. Yeah.
Just roundhouse kicking cherubs and stuff. I don't know.
No, he started off as a legend in Bruce Lee movies. The guy knew, like, anybody in martial arts respected him for his martial arts, not for his acting, not for his action
Right.
movies, but because he was truly a martial artist, one that they actually feared as far as his prowess and capability.
Come on,
of
Delta
the black
Force was premier. Go on.
It was, but yeah, like all of that, like he had such a fantastic career prior to him even getting on film.
Yeah.
And then his film career, he never took it seriously, but he also never once had a scandal.
Yeah, exactly right.
In the 50 years that we got to witness him on TV and movies, you never heard anything but amazing things about Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
He was a good man on top of everything else. And I have one story of when the second time in my life, I was 22-ish, maybe 23. Yeah, I was 23. I got arrested for a speeding ticket infraction that I didn't pay, and had a bench warrant out, and they took me to a holding cell, and they let me out to make my phone call, and I made my phone call, and I had been making all the sheriffs and all the deputies all laugh the whole time, and they knew I wasn't a threat and that I'd be getting out. So they didn't put me back in the cell. They let me hang out in the waiting room at the Cooney County Jail, and so I could hang out and watch Walker Texas Ranger with them.
Yeah.
And that's like, I watched that when I was a kid, and I love, it was formulaic. It was of that era of early to mid 90s television. And, but even in reruns, man, it is like captivating to watch this kind of Matlock meets kung fu kind of concept, and it was a fun show. And
yeah, what's good? MacGyver, Matlock, and Kung Fu. Make it all one show, and they ran it forever, dude. And there was Chuck with tight jeans on, still kicking high. It's incredible.
Yeah. And so, man, he does, I think, hold a soft spot in all of our hearts. For one reason or another. But the man, I don't think a single human being resented the man, and he lived up to every one of the memes that were made afterwards. Even that, I reviewed one of those for the dope. I reviewed that Epic Wars, where they do the simulating of, like, what would it be if 100 or 10,000 Mickey Mouses fought 10,000 Donald Ducks? Who would win? Anytime that they would put one of those up, they would give you one Chuck Norris versus a million Urukai or a million of the Avengers or whatever. Chuck Norris always won. It didn't matter what it was. He was invincible. He was the one punch man. He was, and we all believe it. All the jokes, all the things were like, nope, no one's tougher than Chuck Norris. And you're right, with good humor, he leaned into that. When most of the time a celebrity would either ignore it or get mad about it, this man had enough good sense about him and enough good nature about him to not only absorb it, but lean into it in good humor and recognize that this level of life, all of these jokes were meant in respect. And that everybody looked fondly upon him for the life he led, for the career he had. And I think that we really should kind of honor a man who has done what he's done and what he's accomplished, not only in Hollywood, but in martial arts and in life. He's just a good dude.
Yeah, and I hope there's not some crazy scandalous hit piece that comes out about the real Chuck Norris after...
That would be heartbreaking.
Come on. But
just let us have one. Let us have one.
Can we have one? Yeah.
Let it be Chuck.
Yeah, that was that one sucked. I was surprised to learn about late last night, in fact, Robert Mueller.
Yeah,
I didn't know any of that was going on until last night.
Yeah, there's a lot of suspicion around that guy's death now.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah. Somebody who we were given no hint of health issues, and they unceremoniously just kind of tried to slip it into the news cycle. Yeah. They didn't make a big deal about it. They tried to keep it on as low profile as possible. They knew they had to talk about it, but they didn't want to make it explode. That's a weird one because we could probably don some tinfoil hats for this one, but we're skipping that.
I mean,
that
unofficially, I'm going to blame the Clintons.
Right. I just find the timing odd. Yeah. That after the Clintons got deposed for their Epstein file kind of stuff that's been going on congressional hearings.
The Epstein stuff is getting out of control now.
Right. Yeah. So, but, and then all of the stuff kind of getting overturned and flipped, like the raid at Mar-a-Lago that Mueller was in charge of, the Russiagate stuff. My guess is that guy was about to sing like a canary and got himself the heart attack gun. And I mean, you'd have to really convince me otherwise that's
I hate
not
to
what
say it, but
happened.
yeah.
Yeah. Like he's like the jig is up. I'm just gonna start telling the truth. I'm in my final stages of life. I'm retired. What else do I got to lose other than not spending the last 10 years of my
Yeah,
life in prison?
we're not getting that memoir at all now.
No.
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, yeah, Robert Mueller died anyway," and they kind of just skip over it. We're like, "Hold on, wait a minute, the Robert Mueller, the
Yeah.
guy that we heard about for 5 years, going after the Trump administration for everything from tying his shoes wrong to having ugly curtains, like that guy, the guy that was doing everything he could to try to take down the current sitting president, and then." Got proved that he had been lying and that he had falsified a whole bunch of stuff after he got retired himself so that he could be prosecuted in that manner. That Robert Mueller, okay, we need to explore this a little further.
So, somewhere in my possessions is a pin that somebody at work where I work over at Redacted gave me that said Robert Mueller on it, and it had a silhouette of his face, and there was like some files underneath it. And the person that gave it to me, it was like right in the throes of the Mueller investigation and all the reports that were coming out, and how it was basically a slight on all, right-wing prominent individuals that were set up to run these investigations. And then I just kind of laughed and took the pen. They're like, "Oh, I should totally wear it." And then when the Mueller report comes out and there's nothing at all incriminating, they were furious and like, give me back that pin, blah, blah, blah. Nobody should wear this. I'm like, oh, it's funny when you think you're going to win the argument that everyone gets a pin, but you want to take this back. Hell no, I'm wearing my Robert Mueller pin on the front of my jacket now instead of just on my backpack. Like, what are we doing? I hate that pin. I don't even want to see it. I'm like, you had them made and then gave me one. Like, I'm not taking this anywhere. I'm not doing any of these things. So I have that somewhere. I think it's in like a coin cup or something in a cupboard, but yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah. Two other notable deaths for me. There was a couple of others of actresses and stuff that I wasn't aware of and familiar with, so I kind of just didn't add them to my list. But two other ones. One of them, Nicholas Brendan, who I'm a huge fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show.
Yeah.
And I have a Buffy the Vampire Slayer tattoo right here. And I absolutely adored that show. Had my kids watch it. They loved it too. And one of the main characters who played Xander by the name of Nicholas Brendan, he didn't really do much afterwards, and it kind of really made him he really suffered for being kind of slighted in Hollywood. He was one of kind of like the guy who played Screech or whatever, where they just couldn't get any traction after that show when they were a big deal on the show and thought that if this was going to propel them into stardom, and it never really did. And it kind of put him down the course of heavy alcoholism and drug abuse and stuff like that. And the rest of the cast, Sarah Michelle Gellar went on to be Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Allison
Charisma Carpenter
Hannigan
went on to be the number one in my heart, even though she did some whatever B movies after that. But
but Allison Hannigan has had a robust career, and they all kind of did except for him. And but apparently,
if you're listening, Charisma, I still love you. Go on.
He does. We talk about it frequently. But Nicholas Brendan, at the age of, I think, 51 or 53, somewhere in there, he just passed away. Yeah. And it's due to some illnesses that were complicated, I think, by his alcoholism, and which was really sad because, he really got a raw deal, which a lot of those people get eaten up by Hollywood and spit out while they're still doing everything they can in their lives to chase the dragon. Yeah. And he just was one of those ones that just got churned out, and it's really, really unfortunate. But the other one that really kind of hit home for me that I didn't even realize, but a lot of people won't know who this is, but comic book artist and creator Sam Keith. And Sam Keith died this week. And Sam Keith was one of my childhood favorites. For those that don't know who he is, he worked at Marvel for a long time, where he worked on Marvel Comics Presents, and he did a lot of Wolverine stuff. And he had a really weird, kind of cartoony, but really sketchy style. But he created what everyone best knows him for is the Max, the purple and yellow guy from. They even made a TV show about it, and based on his whole style, he took a lot from the early kind of fantasy painters like Frazetta and Boris and a lot of those guys, and kind of incorporated it into his sketch style. But one of the other things that you're familiar with, that he was actually co-creator with Neil Gaiman, was
Sandman.
Sandman. Yeah. And so, but he was a juggernaut in the comic book world. If Sam Keith touched it, people bought it, because his style was so unique in comparison to a lot of the kind of traditional ways of drawing comic books. He was way out of the box. And he was a huge imagination for the comic book industry. And I might get myself a Sam Keith tattoo due to my admiration for him. But he ended up dying of complications of Parkinson's and another muscular dystrophy type of illness that comboed him together and had him actually pass away fairly young. You got someone at the door?
No. They walked on.
But yeah, so it was an unfortunate loss. I was pretty bummed out to hear we lost Sam Keith. So, but yeah, those are the ones that passed away this week that, Chuck kind of, made us want to talk about him passing away, because it's Chuck Norris. You can't not. This was somebody of his iconic nature goes. You kind of have to touch on it.
Yeah.
And then Robert Mueller as well was a very interesting one.
Big question marks on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just made us want to kind of talk about a couple of people who have passed this week that made a huge influence on American society. So
yeah.
But, yeah. So
you have a new dope this week. I'm unfamiliar with this one.
Okay. This one is one that I've had a really good time with over the course of the last probably year and a half. And at first I thought the guy was kind of a jackass. But the more I started watching him, the more he got fed to me through my Instagram feed, and he has Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. A young man by the name of Dakota Week, Weik, loves to featured, and this is the first time I've actually done a dope on tattoos. So, and I can probably give you 100 different tattoo sites that I follow, but they're very niche, and they're very kind of geared towards the tattooer's perspective.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this guy is he's not a tattooer. He's a collector, and he is an appreciator of really good tattoos, and he's got a good eye. And what he does is he features from all over the world. You're talking Eastern Europe, you're talking Central Europe, you're talking Argentina, you're talking Korea, you're talking everywhere. It doesn't matter where, but he will find the people with the most unique styles and he will feature them and talk about their tattoos and how much he appreciates them. And he'll go into the description of their styles and where they get their influences from. And he'll feature one artist or a like three artists that all kind of similar styles or something like that. But you can explore his channels forever looking at, and he's not wrong. He knows what he's talking about. As a 27-year tattoo veteran, this kid has a good eye. So much so that he has now started an apprenticeship to actually become a tattoo artist, and I applaud him for it. I think
cool.
he'll make a great one because he understands, and he's delved into the history. He's delved into what good art is. He's delved into, and he has such a heartfelt appreciation. But even on it's called Inked Abroad. So INKED ABROAD, Inked Abroad. And his name is Dakota Wyke, and he has 576,000 followers on Instagram alone. And it's incredible. It's incredible what this guy can find and then feature and appreciate. And man, I have been inspired by this guy's content and being able to. So instead of, for all those listening out there who like go to certain areas to find their tattoo inspiration, stop going to Pinterest. Stop going to
stop going to AI.
Stop going to AI. Stop going to any of those places. Go here. Go to his social media accounts, follow him, and go through all of the stuff that he shows. Mind-blowing tattoos, stories with tattoo legends, insane realistic tattoos, different featured artists. He's so good at taking from around the world and then like putting it into such a way where there's reverence, and he's talking quietly. He's not bombastic. He's not like a Guy Fieri of tattooing or anything. Like this kid just truly, and he gets tattooed heavily by the people that he actually appreciates and will fly to them, set up appointments, and actually go, I want a piece by this person because I value their ability so much. And so he does everything the right way. He can articulate styles really well. He understands what good tattooing looks like. Every single one that he shows are bangers. Nice. Every single one. I've never seen one that I disagreed with him, that he's like, these are some of the most amazing tattoos I've ever seen. Check this out. And you go into it, you go, whoa, he's not joking. This stuff is incredible. So I highly recommend it. It is a personal joy for me, obviously, due to what I do. But I know that there's a lot of people who listen who are tattoo enthusiasts. This is a very uplifting, positive way to look at tattoos and to look at how far the art form has come in a way that's wholesome, that the dude really appreciates a time-honored tradition and a time-honored art form, and he gives it the honor and the respect that it deserves. And it's an incredible way to kind of view tattooing from the perspective of a collector, of an appreciator, of somebody who looks to get stuff and not just kind of find copy and paste stuff off of Google. This is the way to do it.
And it's also a lot of the tattooing content you see that isn't promotional material from the artists themselves is generally people shitting on other people's tattoo work, right? Or like top 100 bad tattoos and stuff. So just the nature of how this is presented sounds incredibly intriguing, because there just isn't very much of that type of content,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's either I'm promoting myself as the top dog and I'm here for you, come get tattooed, or it's humor based, kind of like snarky shop humor kind of stuff.
Right.
Or it's or it's
No
like you said,
regrets.
yeah, shitting on bad tattoos.
Right.
There's a lot of that, and there are some that I actually appreciate about like the shitting on bad tattoos if it's done properly.
Right.
But in this particular case, he doesn't do that. He doesn't even bother. What he does is he goes to where he finds the best tattooers in the world, the best tattoos and the best styles, and he presents them in such a beautiful manner. He really, like, he frames it with such care that there's no way to not have kind of a positive energy coming out of that video. And so that's what I appreciate about it. Yeah, Dakota Week, and yeah, it is the dope of the week.
Nice.
And I really, really, really hope a lot of you guys go out there and check it out.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So, and he also has Inked Abroad merch. So he sells merch, and there's some pretty cool like Western girl shirts on there and stuff like that. But he also talks about his journey on his website, and in the history and stuff like that. And he seems like a genuinely good dude that that really appreciates the industry that I'm in, and that a lot of people are in love with. So I just very much appreciate it. But
Nice.
anyway, that's the dope of the week.
Love it.
So I don't ever do tattoo ones because I always kind of think that it's kind of cheating.
Yeah.
To go, if that's what I do, or
Self-aggrandizing in some way.
Right. Well, and then also it's the same thing. Like when people go, "What do you draw when when you just get to draw?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't ever get to just draw. It's always for somebody else." But everyone's like, "Oh, you don't just draw like Star Wars stuff all the time?" And I'm like, I just feel like it's kind of like expected of me. And I've done so many Star Wars tattoos, and I've done pretty much drawn every character multiple times over. So like, it's not. As much as I love Star Wars, it's just not something I draw. I don't draw Star Wars stuff, and it's kind of the same thing where I feel like I could probably do a tattoo dope probably every other week,
right? Yeah,
for a year. But there's only certain ones that I will kind of dip into, and this is the first one I felt was worthy of the segment. So, but
nice.
Yeah. Hey, have you seen any movies this week?
What did I watch? The answer to that question is yes. What was it? Oh, I introduced someone to Pulp Fiction. Never seen Pulp Fiction before.
That is wild. That is a crazy concept that you got to introduce a grown adult to something as classic as Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Were they Mormon?
No, just like, oh, I totally get it, because, in the first 2 minutes of that movie, it shatters a ton of expectations on how a film should open. And, it went on to kind of like fly in the face. If you think about that time in Tarantino and stuff, kind of fly in the face of the boomer driven, well, here's Forrest Gump. You should love this, and then this comes out of nowhere with like page breaks, and Jungle Boogie starts playing in the top, and they're like playing the catalog in the wrong order, and the scenes are then out of order, and all that, like very revolutionary stuff. So I think that part sunk in, like, oh, okay. And having seen other Tarantino films since, it's like, oh, that makes a ton of sense. Like there's a very distinct feel through a lot of these movies. So that part was cool, but it was not near as jarring as when I introduced my dad to Pulp Fiction. It's like, oh, don't worry about it, Pop. That's the Gimp. He's supposed to be there, just like, what the fuck is going on? Like that was to me an all-time high. But it was a good time. Other than that, no, I haven't really seen anything new. I wanted to watch movies, and I haven't had a breath of free time to do it until today. So I'll probably have something for next week that's more palpably new. Because I was cruising through the Godfathers, I think 2 weeks ago, last time we talked about it. So anyway. But
have
this one
probably
you've been looking forward to
yeah,
season
and
3.
I have 3 movies that I have gotten halfway through and have yet to
Yeah.
finish.
Yeah.
So once I finish those, I'll review those for next week. Um, but this one was the big one for me because I've been systematically watching it week to week, which is rare for me. Normally, I let them all store up and I'll watch it all at one time.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, it's still my favorite show, and it's Primal.
Yeah.
So Primal had 2 amazing seasons, and we thought that was all we were going to get.
Yeah. Well, because
And
we covered the
it had,
last season together here, leading
yeah,
up to season 3, and you were shocked then that this was going to be a thing at all. So,
right.
did it
And
hold up? What did you think?
it did. It starts off pretty slow, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought, okay, it's a weird premise. Let's see how they can take this and where it's going to go. And there's some pretty heavy build up episodes. There's like 2 or 3 up until about episode 4 or 5. I wasn't sure if they knew what they were trying to do with
Mm-hmm.
it, because they really draw out those first couple of episodes, and I thought, oh no, did they give us a trash third season? But then after episode 4, it starts to pick up and the pace starts to really start to go. And ultimately, what they did was, with season 2, they gave you a hero's tragic ending with a teaser of the idea that his sacrifice was worth it in the end. Then in season 3, they bring him back to life, but in a very weird way through like a shaman.
Mm-hmm.
And he becomes a painless, like he can't feel pain, zombie version of himself, where his teeth are exposed and his eyes are all sunken in and his nose is gone and a piece of his head is missing and his brain sticking out. And but he's animated, and
So he
he's
just ripped off
like
Fallout from Amazon, basically. I'm just kidding.
and so basically he's wandering around trying to figure out what he is and who he is, because he has vague clouded memories of stuff, and he keeps getting like flashes when things happen of things that he has feelings for, but he doesn't know why. And so he's just surviving for the first couple of episodes while he wanders around. And then they kind of finally reunite Spear in his zombie form with Fang, who is now taking care of Nala and Fang's 2 baby dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
And Nala's pregnant with Spear's kid before he died. And they reunite him, and there's a whole bunch of distrust that goes on because he's not supposed to be alive, and the dinosaur doesn't get it. And Fang is like, this is not cool. I don't trust this dead walking creature. And as time goes on, you start to realize that his humanity is breaking through. And then by the end, you get a pretty solid resolution that kind of falls in between like the happiness, like a full happy ending, and also kind of a settling of like, this is the best that in this time frame, in this story arc, that these characters could actually end up moving forward.
Yeah.
Do we get a season 4? Possibly. I'm hoping that that's what this ends up doing, is producing a season 4, because now he's a father, and he's very happy to be a father. And Fang has now accepted him as who he is, and his humanity's come back almost entirely. And it was due to a magic juice in a fight pit that he kept drinking every time he won, and it started to replenish his flesh, and he started to gain more memories as it happened. But a lot of people probably feel like they cheated us out of what happened at the end of season 2. It's like kind of the tragic hero's death
Mhm.
and the legacy that he left afterwards, and that this season kind of robbed us of that. And I would agree if, in fact, it does not bring us a season 4 and then the story then continues and this was just part of the story arc. That being said, the sacrifice was still made. He still died. He still did what he had to do, and it wasn't his fault he got brought back to life. But the episodes were very enjoyable, very creative, with like the character development, but also with the outside creatures and characters that they brought in as antagonists. Still no dialogue. It was just grunts and roars and, hand signals. But overall, like, I would say, although not as strong as season 1 and season 2, season 3 still gets a solid 8 for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the Return of the Jedi
Less Ewoks, but still there.
right. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say a solid 8 megs.
Nice.
And it was worth every second of it. I did actually enjoy it. But if I'm being overly analytical, it would be that it's going to require a season 4 for season 3 to feel like as good a season as the other two.
Like they landed the plane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that gets 8 megs, but the big news for me this week, so I'm a huge Firefly fan. I have a Firefly tattoo. My wife has a Firefly tattoo.
Go on.
We are part of the Firefly universe. We started watching it back in 05, 04. And we named our dog Kaylee after the character Kaylee.
I'm a big Marina Baccarin fan.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
And we actually raised our kids on the one season of Firefly and the movie Serenity, which was a brilliant movie, which gave it a good ending and a good capper to the series. But everyone on the planet, it's probably universally known as the one show that if anybody could bring back, they would bring back Firefly, that it should never have been canceled after one season. The biggest TV sci-fi tragedy of all time.
Yeah.
And all of the actors have gone on to do other things. And they've all had great careers and they've all done wonderful things in TV but too much time has passed. So everyone's pretty much given up on the idea that there would ever be a reunion of any kind until the lead character, Captain Malcolm Reynolds, played by Nathan Fillion. Nathan Fillion, who's had a robust career on The Rookie, and he did Castle for years afterwards. Like he started making these video posts on his Instagram page of him knocking on the doors of all of the cast members, and they just trickled them out one after the other. Yeah. And he'd knock on the door, and Gina Torres would open up and go, "Is it time?" And he'd go, "Yeah. It's time. We're doing it." Okay, we're doing it. And then he'd go to Jewel State's house, or he'd go to Adam Baldwin's, or all the other characters, Summer Glau, all of the different characters, and they would have the same reaction. Oh, we're doing this? Okay, then let's do it. And everyone was speculating for a long time as to what this meant. Does this mean they're actually doing Firefly regroup? What is happening?
I was one of those speculators as well.
Yep. And so then, rumors are flying. Oh, they're just putting out a new Pop Toy set, which wasn't it. Oh, they're all going to meet up at this Comic-Con for a panel. That also wasn't it. Although that's one of the things that they did do, that wasn't what they were referring to. They're going to do a podcast together or something. Everybody was no one wanted to get their hopes up that they were actually going to be doing anything with the show in a serious manner. And ultimately, they announced at a comic convention that they were all on a panel for, that in fact they are bringing Firefly back. However, they're going to do it in an animated fashion.
Yeah.
And it will be an animated show that they're all going to voice. So they will be the original voices of the characters. They're going to be involved in the making of it. They brought in a really great animation studio that is, I think, a claymation animated studio, like stop motion animation. And but they're Academy Award winning. They've got showrunners already picked. They've got the green light from Disney, from Joss Whedon, from everybody. They got the green light across the board. So it is going to happen. We will get a Firefly animated show. And I as far as what could be done in this day and age with as old as they've gotten, this is the best case scenario.
I think so too. Like I was disappointed that it wasn't going to be live action, but then I was like, they're way too old for, like, they would have to have so much time has gone by and now we're doing this and we'd have to jump into a new universe and it would take a lot of money and stuff. So better than nothing. But I was like, oh, damn it, it's going to be animated. But the more I thought about it, I was like, you know, this actually is probably going to be pretty cool. It just depends on who publishes it, you know?
Right.
Like, where will it land? You know, what studio is going to put this up on their deal? And I'm guessing it's going to be Disney, but I don't know.
Yeah. I just hope Disney doesn't screw it up like it's known to do. But
you don't want Leslie Headland as a showrunner on it, or the executive produced by Kathleen Kennedy and all her friends?
I think there would be literal riots. I think that Minneapolis would be a candle.
Reasons number 1 and 2 that I canceled Disney Plus.
Right.
Yeah.
But what this also allows, though, and I thought of other ways, but this also allows Wash to come back because he died in Serenity and he's an integral piece to this puzzle, and you can't really have Firefly without Wash. So, played by Alan Tiddick. And so I would love to see like a live action version where they're kind of set in the future and they integrated Wash into Serenity's like communication systems and navigation system, or he comes like back in the Jarvis. Right. Yeah. That would be awesome. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And
hey, Lance, good to see you.
But yeah, the show is going to be, I hope, very good, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm pretty excited. I was following that like I've never followed anything before.
Yeah, I assumed you were. I didn't want to like talk about it because I wasn't sure what it was. On the off chance it was like, you know, a Funko Pop toy release reigniting, you know, a fan base as a cash grab would have been a real disappointment. But yeah, I think this is probably the best of a no-win scenario is that we actually get an animated series. So hopefully it's done well. That's my take. But that's exciting.
Nathan and Alan are doing a podcast together, and I think that's kind of what ignited this.
Oh, probably.
So yeah, but I'm super happy they got everybody. They got the whole cast on board. Obviously, minus Shepherd Book, but the actor did pass away in real life. So outside of that, the whole cast is back. So and they could probably bring him back too posthumously with animation. They could have another voice actor.
Well, if Disney's doing it, yeah, they brought CGI Luke Skywalker back in the Mandalorian. So
right, exactly. So. But yeah, so pretty excited about that. But I do believe it is time for the 21st segment of the Overlord Tips.
Go on. Let's do it.
All right. So, in this particular case, we're going to be kind of talking about perception.
Okay.
And what it takes to command respect via short-term look. Like
Okay.
people need to look at you and be able to respect you, and know that there's importance in front of them.
Yeah.
It
Something I
commands the
struggle with
room.
routinely.
So, and in that case, I'm going to hire a talented fashion designer
Sure.
to create original uniforms for my legions of terror.
Yeah. Hugo
as
Boss
opposed to
comes to
some-
mind. No reason.
Right? As opposed to some cheap knockoffs that make them look like Nazi stormtroopers. Roman foot soldiers or savage Mongol hordes. All were eventually defeated, and I want my troops to have
Yeah.
a more positive mindset. I'm not going to put them into any historical kind of tyrannical look
Yeah.
because they're going to go, yeah, but what happened to the Mongols? What happened to the Nazis? Oh, they were the baddies and they got destroyed. No, I want them to command respect, but also believe that they're going to win. So
Yeah.
it is a morale thing. It is a perspective thing. It is a thing to actually show the public something new, something fresh that they can all get behind and not go, they all look like Nazis. Maybe we shouldn't follow them.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
it-
like if you're
This is a thread that was explored by numbers 21 and 24, which were henchmen that belonged to the Monarch in the Venture Brothers. They talked
Yes.
they talked about this at great length on one episode, and it's very true. You gotta
Yeah.
look the part that doesn't look like you're gonna lose the battle. You know,
right.
you can't
Exactly.
be traipsing around behind the Red Skull and not know you're gonna lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I dig
So
this.
that is
Fashion designers.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
somebody who's actually going to come in and actually do something functional,
Hmm.
but this is so like not plastic stormtrooper crap that doesn't actually deflect any laser blasts,
Right.
but also so that you don't look like an evil regime, that you look like something that people want to cheer for.
Sure.
Now, in 1930s Germany, that's what they saw in those outfits because they'd never seen Hugo Boss's gear before.
That's true.
But now, they're like, look at they're so stylish and they're so great. This is what heroes look like. You want to make a difference, but be original enough that you're not copying the losing party of all the historical wars. That
That's
you
right.
come up with something new, and that it looks like something a hero would wear. So that way you get people to support you, and you build the morale amongst your troops, and everyone feels like they belong.
Yeah.
And that's the psychology behind putting a fashion designer and paying them good money to do it.
I love it. That's
So
what an ending.
yes.
These henchmen look like heroes. Oh
Yeah.
man. Well, good to have you back.
Good to
Happy
be back.
anniversary again.
Thank you.
That's exciting times. I think
It is.
our plan is to be back next week, God willing. So we'll go from there. Anything to plug on the way out?
Nothing really. Just hit us up on the socials. Hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on Instagram or Twitter or X or whatever, and email us. So
Yeah.
you can find us all at Modern Relics Pod, and looking forward to hearing from you. If you have any suggestions, we're taking suggestions for conspiracy corners, like stuff that you want to hear us talk about.
Yeah.
Put some tinfoil hats on, wrestle with the morality of, wrestle with the believability of certain theories. So if you got any of those, let us know. And in the meantime, you guys have a good week.
Awesome. All right. Well, we will see you all later on. Have a good night.